Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Very excited about this discussion we're going to be having for the next 25 minutes or so. Ahmed and Talal, thank you so much for being with us. As the previous panels this morning and in the introduction, we're talking about AI and how we're moving from what had been quite an esoteric, distant technology for many of us to something in the last 2 years with the advent of Gen AI as something perhaps most of us in this room are using every day. But what's the impact going to be in terms of our economies, in terms of our lives over the next few years as this technology applies to a wide range of sectors and data sets beyond just the words that we write? I'm very pleased to say that both Ahmed and Talal bring with them perspectives that talk about the leadership role of Abu Dhabi in this fast-moving area. And I think that's where we want to focus at the beginning of this discussion. Maybe I can come to you, Ahmed, first. Where does Abu Dhabi fit in the story of AI and in particular the last couple of years?
Firstly, thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. I thank all the attendees for spending time with us today. The story for us, at least at Hub 71, started from our inception in 2019. And I think what a lot of people, I'm sure, realize, but maybe don't identify with as much, is that since we started in 2019 at Hub 71, we were sector agnostic. We always didn't want to crowd out any sector. We wanted to be very open to the type of startups that would be interested in joining the Hub 71 and the Abu Dhabi ecosystem. And since day one, we always saw AI or startups that use AI as an enabling solution for their businesses. So it's really nothing new. It's always been there. Obviously, what's happening today is that you have an interface that's user-friendly. People engage with the generative AI solutions. So now it's becoming more as a product or a solution here. Now, the growth spur that happened is also testament to the great work that different Abu Dhabi entities, including G42 and Core 42, have invested in the growth of AI infrastructure and placing it really center stage of different sectors that we have as Abu Dhabi. I'm sure we'll hand over to Talal in a second, but for me, it's sessions with Talal, sessions with other Abu Dhabi entities where I thought we were here in terms of AI, but we're actually like way above here. And that's really what fuels our thinking as an ecosystem enabler and our conviction actually that not only it's a cool thing that you see day to day, but there's actually an opportunity for you to build hopefully globally leading businesses within AI out of Abu Dhabi.
And Talal, the opportunity that Ahmed is talking about, I mean, it feels that if Core 42 and G42 are really central to that opportunity and bringing the access points to Abu Dhabi.
No, very much so. And again, also thank you to the organizers for putting this together and inviting us to share a little bit about what G42 is doing and how we fit into this ecosystem. And obviously, Hub 71 has trailblazed in the attraction and the appeal factor for Abu Dhabi in the technology domain for years. This is not a new thing or a new paradigm. We're very lucky at G42. We've been able to mimic the UAE in punching above our weight, relatively small company in comparison to some of the bigger players in the industry, but we've become a much more global player. We've got digital infrastructure deployed, exaflops of capacity in supercompute in the US, soon Europe, and then here in the UAE as well that are currently available. And that is the nucleus that allows us to manufacture and diffuse intelligence, right? It's very analogous to electricity, right? So you need the power plant. In our case, it's the compute infrastructure that's inclusive of the physical layer, which in the G42 family is controlled by a company called Khazna, where we build data centers on a wholesale level. And then the digital infrastructure, which is where we play as Core 42, providing the cloud compute flavors, be it the private cloud, the sovereign public cloud in partnership with Microsoft that we've also provided to the customer personas like the regulated industries and the public sector. And then the AI compute, the GPUs and the AI accelerators that are necessary to provide the enablement to the different companies either within the G42 family. You've got Presight, Space 42, M42 on healthcare, CPX and others, or to the extended ecosystem, and hopefully now in this case as well, the beneficiaries could be Hub 71 entrepreneurs. So that's where we're able to play that role, very analogous to a utility company, and that's why we call it the intelligence grid on the G42 level, which is what we're trying to build out, not just locally, but globally.
And so the ecosystem encompasses a wide range of topics that all fall under what's happening with AI. So you mentioned energy, which in one sense is both a problem and an opportunity, because you need a lot of energy to power the cloud and the compute, but also because of that, it's likely that a clean energy solution will be faster because of that need. The demand is there. Also, we see that beyond the infrastructure, we also have the R&D that's needing to take place, which I think maybe Hub 71 comes into. Some of the startups that you've brought there probably are working at sort of as a hotbed area of innovation. Do you have any color about some of the more exciting companies you want to name? Name check here.
Yeah, and that's one of the exciting things that I think it's a stone definitely untapped, and it's something we will definitely publicize a lot more. But 20% of our startups are either are AI enabled or have AI as a service or a product. And a couple of companies do stand out. For example, we have a company called Base2 that joined Hub 71 last year. And what Base2 does simply is they leverage AI to develop process manufacturing advice to different manufacturers, could be any facility, and they really skyrocketed. They're doing really phenomenally well. We have a couple of AI discovery-based startups now that are operating out of the UAE, and a common question they get, and I sit in the sessions that they have with either investors or international audience, they get asked, is like, why are you in Abu Dhabi out of all places? And for them, the answer is quite simple, is that, well, obviously the country and the Emirates is investing a lot within AI. All the relevant partners they meet are within, are within reach. It's very simple through an ecosystem, through an ecosystem like Hub 71. And what's very important here, and I don't think, again, it's something we say enough, is regulatory agility. Talal knows this, I know this. Decision makers are one or two calls away. Doesn't mean that we can just go and just say, change regulations overnight, but we have the ears of important players that could move the needle when it comes to AI regulation here, which I think is as an important of a facet and an enabler as capital is. And when startups come and identify this, that actually I can get my voice heard, and this is a ecosystem that will listen to our concerns, to what we are looking for, it becomes way more appealing. And the real, I'd say, proof point of that is the ADGM as a regulator. Our experience with them as Hub 71, their progressiveness, their receptiveness to develop is really what's setting us apart.
I mean, in this new era of AI, it really underscores the idea that you cannot succeed in a silo anymore. There needs to be cooperation across sectors, governments, companies. I feel that that's the experience that Core 42 and G42 are happening. The number of partners that you're working with across industries and countries really speaks volumes to that idea that you can't succeed alone. Is that the kind of experience you're having?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no way we could achieve the ambitious goals that we've set on our own if we had to build a lot of these things from scratch. And we've tried in the past. We've built a cloud from scratch, a private cloud, which was a great experience, and we've leveraged that even in our implementations today, but it was not as scalable and inherently limited in comparison to what we're able to achieve with partners like what we're doing right now with Microsoft. And we innovate on top of what they have as a platform, but they've got obviously global reach and R&D dollars that date back multitude of years that allowed for them to get to a certain position that they're in. So, and similarly with NVIDIA and with Cerebras and with Qualcomm and with AMD, we're trying to build as much optionality into our offerings for customers to maximize how they could leverage. On the software side, similarly, we're seeing things on the we build our own model. We have the Inception Institute of Artificial Intelligence as part of the G42 family, where we've built the JACE Arabic language model, but it's not mutually exclusive to you using other models, which we support as well, fine-tuning over OpenAI's GPT or Llama and Mistral and others. And what we tend to do is find ways to build platforms that enable sovereignty to help with regulated workloads in sectors that like healthcare and financial services, or the public sector and energy, where you need a level of sovereignty, but also a layer of abstraction from the complexity in terms of figuring out what to choose so that you could focus on your core business. As an entrepreneur, you want to access compute, you want to leverage Gen AI, but you're not necessarily certain you don't know whether to use a Qualcomm accelerator for inferencing here or an NVIDIA GPU. You don't know whether Llama is going to give you the most inference economically achievable output versus Mistral or Jace. And so we abstract that layer of complexity by providing APIs and products that we developed like Compass in the Core 42 side to help enable you to focus more holistically on your value add to the customers by leveraging that compute infrastructure as well as the models that we have.
So, I mean, you talked us through there how it works in practice, but also I'm hearing the names that you're mentioning, like NVIDIA and Microsoft and AWS. And I think maybe for the entrepreneurs in the room here, if you're thinking, how do I reach big names like that? They're coming here. I mean, I think we can't take that for granted. And we do sometimes because of the kind of track record of Abu Dhabi and the UAE over the last 25 years, of being able to be a partner of choice, a stable environment, a stable landscape. You mentioned the regulation. So now we have it that in the fastest, most exciting arena, the biggest names in the world are coming here. And that's something not to be taken lightly. I mean, that's testament to your work, I assume.
A testament to Abu Dhabi's work, the Emirates' work. I mean, there are a lot of macroeconomic factors that pave the path for a lot of these entities to identify the UAE and Abu Dhabi as the place to set up your business. It's a cosmopolitan place. The rule of there's a great, obviously, regulations, safety, security, a favorable tax environment, a very tolerant environment. We have the first Ministry of Tolerance in the world. There's a lot of these different factors that already make Abu Dhabi such a great place to do your business. You overlay that with a community, a builder, which is Hub 71. Community is very important for us. It makes the path easy because these now are entities that just want to connect. They have the shared vision of working towards a different goal. And we keep drilling down. In this specific case, when it comes to working on AI solutions, it's all people with different backgrounds that have done different things, but all have a shared vision of what AI can bring to the table. So you speak the same language. And I'm here in a technology front. But I want to go back to a point you mentioned earlier about how the nature of VC globally. One of the things that differentiates Abu Dhabi and us having visited different ecosystems, jurisdictions focused on the VC side, be it Silicon Valley, be it in Berlin, be it London, the VC and technology space is very local. You go to Berlin, they tell you if it's not DAC speaking, we really don't think about it as VC or technology, nor do we are interested in it. You go to Silicon Valley, if it's not within a 5-kilometer radius, they really don't take it as technology. Abu Dhabi is probably one of the few places in the world where you're setting up a global business. Your mindset here is like, because the market here is decent, it's sizable, you can get access to partners, but you're thinking this is a nexus where I can access the world.
And this is when you're talking about the access to the compute, access to the infrastructure. You have infrastructure that's not just Abu Dhabi based, but also international as well that people can leverage. Correct?
Absolutely, and that's key, right? Because you do want to be able to have exportability for the things that you're building in Abu Dhabi, and the enablement there is something that allows companies to access that infrastructure elsewhere. But more importantly, and to Ahmed's point, I think the UAE has always been known for leveraging its comparative and competitive advantages ever since the pearl diving days, and then diversifying the economy away from hydrocarbons slowly into financial services initially with investments and sovereign wealth funds. Fast forward, then Mubadala came around, and even Dubai, if you look at it as well, in terms of tourism and air aviation and ports. But then you look at what Mubadala did in Abu Dhabi with industry and manufacturing with structural composites for aviation with Strata, and investing in global foundries very early on. All these things were very intentional steps in that diversification strategy that led to a point where it was an inevitable eventuality that we would get involved in AI and tech and become, produce productizable items around that are exportable. And that's kind of how we came to being. We now consider ourselves a global company that happens to be born and headquartered in Abu Dhabi because of the reach that we've had and the partnerships that we've built. And that is a very unique proposition. And in terms of the comparative and competitive advantages, it's interesting to see the foresight. So on the regulatory side, I completely agree. I think this open lab environment is what attracted G42 to exist in the first place. because we were able to do things here, be it in our genomics program, be it in big data analytics and AI, that other countries would only dream of. And that was because of leadership and because of the ability to move with agility and have regulations not, you didn't have to fit into existing regulations. Regulations could be designed around the new innovative approaches and keep pace with technological evolution. But think back to 2007 when the demand side management for energy studies started to come out. There was not even the foresight of the energy intensity of AI back then that would have necessitated nuclear. It was really a decision based on industrial capacity that was extrapolated to be needed by 2020 at the time. And the current, back then, energy infrastructure and its trajectory not being able to meet that. And so the idea was, okay, let's look at nuclear, renewables, and find a diversified energy mix, maintaining responsibility to the environment. Fast forward to now, 4 nuclear reactors up and running, extensible as well. And the key ingredient for AI, in my opinion, today is energy. It's the key bottleneck. It is the one thing that absolutely is necessary for us to scale what we are seeing in intelligence manufacturing today, be it generative AI in the traditional sense with the language models, or what we're increasingly seeing more of in reasoning, which is the opportunity to develop new knowledge, which then has profound impacts in terms of improving outcomes in medicine and energy transformation and other areas. So energy being the bottleneck, the UAE having that comparative advantage and the foresight that necessitated that build out positions us extremely uniquely. And that's why there is such an appeal to Abu Dhabi right now from all the big technology players in the world.
I mean, you mentioned leadership, and I think it's good for a moment to dwell upon that because, going back to the founding father, Sheikh Zayed, and through the consistent strategy and roadmap that even to now His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed and the other leadership, what you're going to get. And I think increasingly in other regions, we'll see how AI will be a political hot potato with data and ethics. And we can be sure here that there is a kind of, as you were saying, a diversification goal, a prosperity goal. How does AI feed into our collective prosperity? And that really ties into that. So we know that we're not going to be sidetracked by some of the kind of thornier issues elsewhere, which means that we might not be in front now, but we will be in the future. If you talk a little bit about the next few years maybe and how you see that playing out for Hub 71 in Abu Dhabi.
I mean, it goes without saying. I think a common theme across not only this event, but across event, that how people can forecast what AI is, how it's going to change the way we work. Maybe I'm more extreme in that sense. I really think it's going to be drastic changes in shorter amount of times than we suspect.
And that excites you, the drastic change?
Well, it's making my life easier right now, but I'm also like now investing time in the creative economy because I need to kind of spread my own skill sets. But if you think about what ChatGPT just does today, from being able to mimic your style of communication to, it can start even producing slides. Like, listen, my skill set growing up was during my career was doing slides. So I was like, if ChatGPT starts doing it, so I'm starting to branch out into music and art. Just need something to cover. But it's definitely going to be a seismic shift. And you mentioned leadership, and I mean it's a great segue, and I'm sure Talal will weigh in here. But His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed, His Highness Sheikh Tahnoon bin Zayed, both have been had, I'd say, a vision for this before I even, at least personally, I even saw a sliver of it. They had the foresight long ago. Today, we're probably living somewhere where they saw what's coming, and it's just obvious. Probably the vision they have set forth of what how Abu Dhabi will be placed at center stage for AI is something that I don't think I can fathom yet. And that's what excites me about doing this with Hub 71, is engaging with the partners, is creating that path for us to see how it is we can be part of that story.
What excites you, Talal? Are you as excited as Ahmed?
I'm extremely excited. I think, if you think about it, it's hard to sometimes fully appreciate the potential of where things are going when you're living on an exponential curve. Because when you look back, it doesn't seem like it's been exponential, but when you look forward and you start seeing the inklings of what's coming in AI, you're looking at these reasoning models, like I said earlier, and you're starting to see the ability to not just have probabilistic or statistical based approaches where the larger the data sets that are ingested, the more compute you throw at it, the scaling law isn't failing and will continue to produce results that are seemingly not just human and conversational ability, but smart. But it is limited to what you ingest. Thinking and reasoning is a completely different dynamic. I think people are underappreciating what the potential is when that starts to come forward. So I look at it like, one of our companies, M42, we have the largest genomics program globally that we are executing for the Department of Health. 1.2 million UAE nationals is the target, whole genome sequencing at a 30x resolution, long read and short read. What's the value there? You take that data and then you add to it the phenotypical data, because M42 also has, where is it? Right there, Cleveland Clinic and other clinics as well. And you're able to then put that together and start to understand the genetic predisposition someone might have those snapshots in time combined with it in terms of your EMR records or CT scans, blood tests, etc. And you can conceive of a world where Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and all these other pharma companies can do drug discovery on that. You can have precision medicine tailored to the efficacy of your body rather than something that's more generic. Speed up clinical trials, have preventative care, really go from sick care to health care. And that's why it's called Mubadala Health, or what's called Mubadala Health and is M42 Health, not health care. That's, as the chairman of the DOH says, it's the 80% of what's required for you to improve your health outcome, not the sick care, which is 20%.
Longevity and living longer,
exactly.
and being happier and better well-being, as opposed to just treatment for when you're ill, essentially.
Exactly. And that's where AI, as an output of having the compute infrastructure that can help you process the data and analyze it and derive insights, as well as the cloud infrastructure to store that significant amount of data, and then the speed and the ability to create trusted compute environments so that the likes of other countries can leverage that data set to do their research in a way that's also sovereign. Because nobody wants their genomics data on a public cloud unchecked, and that's what we solve for with the relationships like the one we have with Microsoft and others.
So these are some of the questions, because AI throws up a lot of questions, and Abu Dhabi is searching for the answers, and really I think that's what can give us a lot of excitement about the future, because if we can come up with our own answers, we're not just relying on China, the US, Europe, wherever it is. We kind of control our own destiny, and it seems that's the feeling we have right now, wouldn't you say?
We definitely are paving the path for, I'd say, because we mentioned the importance of partnerships and us, working with the different jurisdictions, economies across the world. Everyone plays a role, right? AI is a global solution that everyone will have a vested interest. There are advances. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned especially that the US and China, because I think the Economist article that came out last year or earlier this year identified 3 locations or 3 economies, 3 places that where AI is really going to thrive. That is China, US, and Abu Dhabi specifically. So we definitely are at a place where we'll definitely have to tap into and leverage both. And we're one of the few places that will be able to do this. Get the both of best of all worlds across the board. At the same time, pave a path for ours. Well, actually, not pave a path. You just heard it from Talal. We're already doing it. We are pre-advanced when it comes to different facets of the AI journey. What we will be able to unlock over the next few years is now a more tailored approach for companies to be able to think, well, no, now instead of going to China and the US, I can do it out of Abu Dhabi.
So, I mean, whatever problem you want to solve, you can do it from here, with the infrastructure, with the regulation, with the environment, and also the kind of AI positive atmosphere. I mean, within G42 and Core 42, I'm sure you feel it every day that you are AI positive, but it isn't necessarily a sentiment that's shared everywhere. But do you feel that that is something that over the coming time you can prove to people that they should feel optimistic and excited about AI, whatever happens?
Yeah, very much so, especially since it feels like G24/7 more so than G42. But more importantly, and to your point about the answer, 42 is the answer. And that's kind of where we drew our inspiration. I don't know if anyone here, who's read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Yeah, so that's literally where we derive our inspiration, 42 being the answer. But more importantly, it's asking the right questions, right? So we have all these tools that are going to help us augment human ingenuity that can help us answer questions, but we need to know what questions to ask to answer, right? And that's where I think we spend a lot of our energy and our time.
Thank you both for a dynamic, insightful discussion in this, as you pointed out, wonderful cluster that we have here of finance and health and all the other sectors. And thank you all for being here this morning. Please join me in thanking our guests on the panel. Thank you.